Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin talk over the phone as tensions over a possible invasion of Ukraine continue.
Police in Paris are trying to stop hundreds of vehicles blocking the streets as a so-called freedom convoy descends on the city. Police in London have sent the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson a questionnaire as part of their investigations into allegations of illegal lockdown parties.
After the result of a failed drug test came to light this week, 15-year-old Russian skating star Kamila Valieva will know on Monday whether she is able to continue the Olympics.
High-stake talks over Ukraine are taking place between Russian President Vladimir Putin and his US counterpart Joe Biden. Tensions are high as the US says a Russian invasion of Ukraine could be imminent. But before the two heads of state started the path of diplomacy, Putin talked once again to French President Emmanuel Macron. It came just a week after the two met in person to try to resolve the crisis. The US has also announced plans to evacuate its embassy in the Ukrainian capital amid fears of the possible invasion. It also asked all its citizens to leave. Germany, Spain, Italy and Belgium are among some of the states following suit. But in Ukraine, citizens remained resilient on Saturday, with thousands protesting on the streets of Kiev to show unity amid fears of a possible invasion. Many carried banners that read, "Ukrainians will resist" and "No to Putin," whilst also chanting "Glory to Ukraine." But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has encouraged people not to panic and pushed back against what he calls bleak war predictions. However, he did attend police drills in the southern Kherson region, 30 kilometres from Russian-occupied Crimea, on Saturday morning. And he said a Russian attack could happen at any time. He also told journalists that Ukraine was ready to counter any action. Meanwhile, joint Russian-Belarusian military exercises continue. According to Belarusian military, they are expected to go on until February 20. Russia has continually denied accusations that its thousands of soldiers on Ukraine's border are gathered there to invade.
Police around Paris have struggled to prevent hundreds of vehicles reaching the city centre as part of a protest against France's COVID-19 regulations. The rally was inspired by the so-called Freedom Convoy in Canada that descended on Ottawa and occupied the city's streets. French authorities said over 7,000 officers have been deployed in an attempt to stop the same happening in Paris, where the protest was banned. Cars and vehicles from across the country started to descend on the city around 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, many having holed up overnight on the outskirts. Authorities have towed some vehicles away and impounded them, and there were reports of over 100 arrests. Anti-COVID protesters were joined by France's Yellow Jackets in wider discontent with the administration of President Emmanuel Macron. In the Netherlands, a similarly inspired protest took place in The Hague, where truckers and sympathisers blocked access to Parliament buildings.
The Ontario Superior Court ordered protesters at the Ambassador Bridge over the US-Canadian border to end the blockade that started on Monday. The injunction came into effect at 7 p.m. local time on Friday. After speaking to Joe Biden, Justin Trudeau, criticised by his opposition parties for his lack of action, issued a stern warning.
I want to make something very clear. The illegal blockades seeking to take our neighbourhoods and our economy hostage, and the collective COVID fatigue we are facing, are two very separate things. If you joined the protests because you're tired of COVID, you now need to understand that you are breaking laws. The consequences are becoming more and more severe.
It is not clear if law enforcement officers will be sent in to remove the truckers that protest against COVID-19 restrictions. The demonstrations have disrupted the flow of goods between the US and Canada and forced the auto industry on both sides to roll back production. On Friday, the Premier of Ontario, the province where the Ambassador Bridge is located, and the federal capital of Ottawa also declared a state of emergency.
The UK Prime Minister is still under pressure to resign over allegations of illegal parties in Downing Street during COVID lockdowns. He's one of around 50 people who've been sent a questionnaire by police in London investigating the accusations over the so-called partygate affair. So far, Johnson has insisted he won't step down, and his party's MPs have not launched any official challenge to his leadership. But a recent poll found that 63% of those surveyed think he should resign.
Even before the partygate, he wasn't a reliable person, and I think we should get rid of him.
I just think it was completely disrespectful and a disregard to all the guidelines that he's put in and everything like that. It just wasn't fair on the people.
And I think if it was Theresa May, she'd be out of power straight away. So he's getting a lot of leeway for it.
He's gotten away with a lot, for sure.
I don't think he should resign, no. He's good in one way and then he's done wrong in other ways. So I think government's all the same anyway.
Many of Boris Johnson's party MPs are waiting to see the results not just of the criminal investigation, but also the full version of an internal report by Sue Gray, a senior civil servant. Partygate comes at a critical time for Johnson, who's one of many European leaders trying to find a diplomatic resolution to the Ukraine crisis.
Myanmar's military junta has released what appears to be hundreds of prisoners to mark the 75th anniversary of Union Day. It announced an amnesty for over 800 people. However, it is unclear whether some of the country's thousands of political prisoners are among those being freed. Crowds gathered outside one prison in Yangon to see if they could find their loved ones. Myanmar has been in political turmoil since February 2021, when the military seized control after a general election.
Security is deteriorating rapidly across the country as fighting and armed conflict intensifies with no sign of abating. UNHCR forecasts an accelerating trend in displacements in the coming weeks and months.
The military junta's pardon and release of prisoners is common for public holidays, but this year it also called for unity in the country on an iconic national holiday that symbolises that.
In Iran, firefighters said they managed to put out a fire at Tehran's Grand Bazaar. The city's fire department said the blaze broke out in the shoemakers section on Saturday morning and ended up damaging up to 25 shops. The spokesman for the department said there were no fatalities, but 2 people had been injured. Police in Spain have arrested one of Europe's most wanted criminals. The Slovenian, whose full name hasn't yet been confirmed, was wanted over accusations of involvement in a heroin smuggling network that brought over 300 kilograms of the drug to Slovenia from Iran, according to the Spanish newspaper El Mundo. He was detained at a luxury residential compound in Barcelona.
The Court of Arbitration for Sport should decide on Monday whether 15-year-old figure skater Kamila Valieva is allowed to carry on and compete in the individual events of the Winter Olympics on Tuesday. The Russian prodigy's emerging career has been into jeopardy over a doping scandal. The journalist who first reported on this story on Wednesday have spoken out of being subjected to death threats, abuse or warnings to check their tea.
Understandably, all sorts of arguments on all sides, and it's not acceptable for that to turn into threats and violence, if indeed it did. I think we all need to take a chill pill, I think people would say when I was younger.
This week, Kamila Valieva helped Russia win gold in the team event. She even became the first female skater to land a quadruple jump at an Olympics. But on Tuesday, a test taken last December flagged for traces of a banned substance, trimetazidine, a drug which is used in the prevention of chest pain but could also improve physical efficiency. After 2 years of break because of COVID-19, the Nice Carnival has resumed. For 2 weeks, around 85,000 people are expected on the French Riviera. Following a limited 2020 edition and a blank year in 2021, the event, which is celebrating its 149th anniversary, found a delighted audience at its opening ceremony. It's a party here. The people of Nice, the people of the French Riviera, and all the tourists have been patiently waiting for this for 2 years. It's a real reunion carnival. It's such a pleasure, the joy of living. We forget about COVID, we forget about everything. We're here and we're enjoying it. We love our life and it's awesome. This carnival, whose first edition took place back in 1873, is one of the most important in the world, along with the ones in Rio de Janeiro and Venice. The event, which has King of the Animals as this year's team, will be running until the 27th of February.